everybody. Yep. It's been over a week since, the last video. But, Christmas tomorrow, so I've decided to come back and try to finish this. Got 12 or 13 videos to upload for to get back on track, then the rest for the last few days. And I can manage that. I did that last year, so I can manage this. But I've been gone for a minute. So a lot of changes have happened, aka a whole brand new setup. My arm's in the way. Whole brand new setup. I got all this going. So yeah. So did not know how to start this off, but I started out like any other would be. Just do a whole reaction video, then go on from there. So, here we are. This reacting to my boy Jimmy High Roller. This is changing the NBA right in front of our eyes. Let's check it out.
In 1996, the NBA introduced a new metric for data tracking that would revolutionize the league. Shooting location data. This new information provided far more than the basic data that we had had for decades. Shot location data tracked specific
One eternity later.
Instances on the court, like exactly where a shot was taken, if a shot came from an assist, or if a shot attempted at the rim was a layup or a dunk. At the time, this data was groundbreaking and spawned a new wave of analytics in the NBA. For the first time, we could actually use numbers and data to take a deeper look into what was happening throughout NBA games. Fortunately, this game-changing data was implemented just in time to track Michael Jordan's last 2 seasons with the Bulls. And this new data revealed what NBA fans had already known for over a decade. Michael Jordan was a mid-range god. According to shot location data, MJ shot 47.1% from mid-range, or from 10 to 23 feet from the basket in his last 2 seasons with the Bulls. Now this number may not sound all that impressive, but among the 80 players who attempted at least 3 mid-range shots per game throughout those 2 seasons, Michael Jordan was the best and most efficient. If all the other statistics the NBA has to offer weren't sufficient enough, shot location data proved once again that Michael Jordan was in a league of his own. This is the gold standard. Well, at least it used to be, because
really
in today's NBA, and this season, among all players who have attempted at least 3 mid-range shots per game, there are 22 players league-wide who have a mid-range field goal percentage higher than Michael Jordan's was. Today's NBA players are really good at shooting the ball. In fact, they're so good, it's changing the game in ways we could have never imagined. Today's video is sponsored by DraftKings. December 25th is quickly approaching. You know what that means. NBA on Christmas. But you don't code Jimmy. Also, DraftKings game money like Steph, Dame, and Clay. We had Kobe, Ray, and Peja. And before them, we had guys like Larry Bird, Derek Harper, and Dale Ellis. Shooters who you can bet are gonna shoot their shot. The shooter is one of the most game-altering roles in basketball. The shooter can turn a double-digit lead into a tie game in absolutely no time at all. The shooter has the ultimate green light. But what happens when everyone in the league is the shooter? In past eras of the NBA, the shooter was a very specific, very defined role that was given to only the most elite shot makers in the game. But what happens when everyone is an elite shot maker? What if I told you that about 80% of the greatest shooters in NBA history are all in the NBA right now? It sounds like a stretch, I know, but it's true. And as the NBA continues to evolve, the ability to be a great shooter will be less of an exception and more of a requirement. As we all know, the league has been going through a three-point revolution over the last 8 seasons or so. Teams and players realized the massive advantage that three-pointers provide, and very quickly the desire to be proficient at the long ball became priority number 1. Players practiced the shot more, teams built entire...
It's like... You can't even be in the league no more if you can't shoot a 3. That's what it is right now. If you can't shoot a 3, then you're not gonna survive long in the league.
Offenses around the shot and the efficiency of the shot skyrocketed around the league. Since the three-point shot was added to the NBA, the benchmark for what we consider to be a good three-point shooter has been about 40%, and this benchmark has virtually remained the standard ever since. But dating back to 1990, the number of players around the league who have shot at least 40% from three has fluctuated drastically, from as low as 7 players in 1991 to as high as 28 players in 1996. But the three-point line was 2 feet shorter that season, so those numbers are skewed. As we make our way through recent NBA history, the number of players capable of shooting 40% or more from three rises all the way up to 38 players in 2009, but then plummets back down to 17 the very next season. That total of 38 players would remain the league record for over a decade. That is until a record-shattering 50 players averaged at least 40% from three in 2021, and then again this season, where 45 players are currently exceeding what was once the benchmark number of 40%. The number of pure shooters in the NBA right now is absolutely absurd. But what if we remove the players that achieve their efficiency with minimal attempts? If we bump the minimum to at least 4 3-point attempts per game, well then our chart looks like this. And the overwhelming number of great shooters that are currently in the NBA right now becomes even more glaring. Unfortunately, for a lot of players in the past, shooting volume three-pointers just wasn't an option. It was far from normal to take 5, 6, 7 threes a game 35 years ago. But that's just it. The revolution of three-pointers in recent NBA history has allowed more players to become the shooter. But it's also allowed the shooter to have a much, much larger role from game to game. Before Steph Curry came along and blew the gates open on what kind of shooting we even thought was possible, Ray Allen was widely regarded as the greatest three-point shooter of all time. And throughout Ray Allen's peak 5-year stretch from 2003 to 2007, he averaged 38% from three on 7.5 three-point attempts per game. Just like Michael Jordan with his mid-range, Ray Allen and his exceptional efficiency on volume shooting was the gold standard for all shooters to aim for. This, however, is no longer the case, because currently there are 11 players around the league who are all averaging a higher three-point percentage on more three-point attempts per game over the last 5 seasons than Ray Allen did during his run as the best shooter on the planet. Shot location data has revealed that the NBA is not a big man's league like it once was. It isn't a league that prides itself on defense or even versatility or teamwork. For that matter. The NBA is a
2K still on. Hold on. Technical difficulties, y'all. But we back.
Shooters League, and this trend can even be seen in the efficiency of free throws. The simplest shot in all of basketball, a shot that literally has the word free in its name, has been optimized far more now than it ever has been. This season, there are 16 players averaging at least 90% from the free throw line. Go back just 10 years ago to the 2012-2013 NBA season, and the number of players who averaged at least 90% from the charity stripe was just 3. In fact, we don't have to go back very far to find seasons where the 90% threshold was reserved for only 1 or 2 players in any given season. Back in the 80s, the title of the league's best shooter was held exclusively by Larry Bird. Despite the game evolving drastically since Bird's retirement 3 decades ago, he is still regarded as one of the greatest shooters to ever lace up. And throughout Bird's career, he led the league in free throw percentage 4 times. In one of those seasons, Bird shot better than anyone else in the entire NBA.
Yeah. Alright. A lot of technical difficulties going on. Y'all missed it. Right when I was about to get back into recording phase, the entire downstairs electricity just turned off. I had to go to the breaker, turn it back on. Oh my god, that would have been made for some great encounter had I continue recording, and bam, the lights just turned off. But we got it back working, so yeah, now let's get into the thing we missed. And yeah, I had to sharpen my phone a little bit, so yeah.
And he shot 88.8% from the line in 1984. This season alone, there are 22 players who are shooting at least 88.8% from the free throw line. What was once a free throw rate good enough to lead the league now wouldn't even crack the top 20 in today's league. Only through decades of trial and error have NBA teams discovered which shots are worth taking.
Unrelated though right now. Spurs, thank you for giving my man Trey Jones some minutes, bro. He needed y'all. That's the only thing I would care about for y'all's team is that y'all got Trey Jones. So yeah. Like he get minutes now. Thank you, Pop, for realizing the talent he got.
And which shots are not. Combine offensive schemes designed to get great open shots with the most talented shooters in NBA history, and players around the league are simply hitting far more shots than ever before. Now, one of the more popular advanced stats is offensive rating. This stat simply measures how many points a team scores per 100 possessions. It's an efficiency stat. When a team brings the ball down the court, how often are they scoring? In the 1999-2000 season, the most efficient offense in the entire NBA was held by the Indiana Pacers, who had an offensive rating of 108.5. This season, the Charlotte Hornets are the least efficient offensive team in the entire NBA with a rating of
100.7.
Prices
And I'm glad that
Harley
put
Davidson
there too.
motorcycles.
That was put
Nashville,
there
Madison,
immediately as soon as you said that.
of 108.7. The worst offensive team in the NBA today is more efficient than the best offensive team in the NBA just 2 decades ago. In today's NBA, we are
But yeah, that did determine that the era has changed. More three. We've already went through that earlier in the video, so you kind of see why. That's the thing.
constantly seeing point totals well over 120, even 130 at times. After watching the dead ball era for over a decade, where a team could win a game after scoring just 80 points, seeing 250 points scored in a single NBA game on a regular basis can be a bit jarring. The most common explanation for these insane point totals being that teams just don't play defense anymore. And this is somewhat true, but a lack of intense, disciplined defense is not nearly the largest factor that leads to these point totals. At a certain point, good offense is going to be good defense. So what happens when the entire league slowly becomes more and more unguardable? Eventually, there's no defensive scheme that can keep up with this level of offensive efficiency. 80% of the greatest shooters in NBA history are all in the NBA right now. Not because they're innately better shooters than past players, but because in order to even play in today's NBA, this level of elite shooting has virtually become a requirement. Young stars around the league, players who are 21, 22, 23, were just kids when the three-point revolution began. These players have only known a game that revolved around volume threes and long jumpers. So where past players didn't hone in on their shooting abilities until later on in their careers, these young players have been trained to knock down the deep ball from the minute they picked up a basketball. By the time Steph won his first MVP, players like Tyler Hero, Jordan Poole, John Morant, Darius Garland, Anthony Simons, Anthony Edwards were just starting their prep careers. By the time they had made it to the league, they already had more long-range reps than past players would get in an entire career. Today's NBA is built for the shooter because it was designed by the shooter. Years and years ago, Larry Bird was the blueprint. In a league where getting the ball into the post was an absolute necessity, he showed us that three-pointers were actually worth taking. Reggie Miller and Ray Allen were the next iteration of the shooter. No longer was the shot reserved for just spot-up shooters a handful of times a game, but you could take the shot off the dribble. You can pull up from three in an ISO situation. You can take them in volume and not be crucified for doing so. And players like Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Damian Lillard, and Kevin Durant.
I'm gonna say this right now, 2K, you gotta give these players $1 million, bro. I want to play with Charles Barkley. I want to play with Reggie Miller, and so forth.
Durant took shooting to a whole new level. A shot from 30 feet out was no longer a last-second heave, but now an actual, real shot attempt. They proved that you can win a championship led by not big men, but by shooters. And they spawned an entire generation of shot makers unlike anything the league has ever seen. And with that being said, I'd like to leave y'all with this. Back in 1988, a player named Michael Adams broke new ground in the NBA. At the time, Michael was a young point guard in his third season in the league, playing for the Denver Nuggets. Now, Michael wasn't what you would call a sharpshooter, especially by today's standards. But that didn't stop Michael from doing what no other player had done before. Because in that season, 35 years ago, Michael attempted 4.6 three-pointers per game. Nearly half of his total shot attempts each game came from beyond the arc. This was the first time since the introduction of the three-point line that a player shot at least 4 threes a game. He didn't know it at the time, but Michael Adams was the NBA's first volume three-point shooter. And since that season 35 years ago, there have been a total of 255 individual seasons where a player has maintained a true shooting percentage of at least 60% while attempting at least 4 threes a game. That's 35 years of thousands of shooters condensed to just 255 of the very best the NBA has ever had to offer. Of those 255 seasons, 178 of them came from players who are currently in the NBA.
Yeah.
The National Basketball Association is a shooters league, and today's shooters are in a league of their own.
Yeah.
Hope you all enjoyed.
Yeah.
And as always, until next time.
W video by Jimmy, as always, bro. Today's shooters are in a league of their own. Yes, I'll put that shit on the t-shirt. Let me stop. But that's gonna do it for right now. I do have more videos planned. I have plans for the next few videos, so peace out. For now.